all the gifts of nature which can satisfy our needs, provided they are technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable, can be termed as a resource. All the things available in nature cannot be termed as a resource. A thing becomes a resource when human beings identify and transform it into a usable form. Next, coming to the classification of resources. Resources can be classified into the following types. Firstly, biotic and abiotic. Second, based on exhaustibility, that is into renewable and non-renewable resources. Third, based on ownership into individual, community, national and international resource. And fourthly, based on the status of development into potential, developed stock and reserves. Now, coming to the types of resources in detail. On the basis of origin, as mentioned before, comes the biotic resources. All the resources in the biosphere having life are termed as biotic resources. Example, human beings, plants, animals, etc. Next is abiotic resources. All the resources in nature which do not have life are termed as abiotic resources. Example, soil, water, air, etc. Next comes on the basis of exhaustibility. First is renewable resources. They are those resources which get replenished naturally by natural processes at a rate comparable or faster than its rate of consumption by humans and are termed as renewable resources. Examples include air, water, solar energy, timber and biomass. They may become non-renewable resources if they are used faster than nature can replace them. Next is the non-renewable resources. All those resources which cannot be produced, regrown, regenerated or reused on a scale which can match its consumption rate are termed as non-renewable resources. These resources are often present in nature in a fixed amount or are depleted much faster than nature can recreate them. Examples are fossil fuels such as petrol, diesel, coal, etc. Now, the next classification is on the basis of ownership. Under this, first comes individual resources, which are the resources that are privately owned by an individual and are termed as individual resources. Examples are house, car, etc. Next is the community owned resources. All those resources which are owned by a group of people or the members of a community are termed as community based resources. For example, park, burial grounds, etc. Next comes the national resources. The resources which belong to a nation or to the government is called as national resources. For example, forest, mountains, wildlife reserves, etc. Next is the international resources. These are the resources which are under the control of international organizations. For example, open oceans and resources in the Antarctic, etc. Next is the classification on the basis of status of development. Under this comes potential resources. Potential resources are those resources which exist in a particular place or region and can be exploited in the future. For example, petroleum may exist in many parts of India having sedimentary rocks, but till the time it is actually drilled out and put into use, it remains a potential resource. Next comes developed resources. The resources that have been surveyed, their quantity and quality determined and are being used at present times are termed as developed resources. For example, the petroleum and natural gas which is being obtained from the Bombay high fields. The development of an actual resource depends upon the technology available and involved. Next is stock. The resources that have been identified but not used due to lack of technology is called stock. And then comes reserve, the part of the stock which can be developed profitably with the available technology is called as a reserve. As the human population is continuously growing, the consumption of natural resources is also increasing. With the increasing industrialization and urbanization of the modern human society, the use of all the resources is rising. If they are not properly used and well managed, a serious scarcity will result. Therefore, we need to conserve the natural resources. This will also upset the ecological balance. Conservation is the proper management of a natural resource to prevent its exploitation, destruction or degradation. Conservation is the sum total of activities which can derive benefits from natural resources, but at the same time prevent excessive use leading to destruction or degradation. We know that nature provides us all our basic needs, but we tend to overexploit it. If we go on exploiting the nature, there will be no more resources available in the future. There is an urgent need to conserve the nature. Some of the major needs are to maintain ecological balance for supporting life, to preserve different kinds of species, that is biodiversity, to make the resources available for present and future generation, and to ensure the survival of human race. Now, soil is the uppermost layer of Earth's crust which supports growth of plants. It is a complex mixture of mineral particles which are formed from rocks, humus which is the organic material formed from decaying plant remains, mineral salts, water, air and living organisms such as the larger ones like earthworms and insects and microscopic ones like the bacteria and fungi. Soil is a renewable as well as non-renewable resource. Soil is renewable because its productivity can be maintained with fertilizers and manures rich in humus. If the soil has been removed from a certain place by erosion, it is particularly non-renewable because formation of new soil may take hundreds and thousands of years. Now, next coming to soil erosion. Erosion literally means to wear away. You might have noticed that during summer, when wind blows, it carries away sand and soil particles from one place to another. Similarly, flowing water removes some amount of soil with it. This removal of top layers of soil by wind and water is called soil erosion. You know that top layers of soil contain humus and mineral salts which are vital for the growth of plants. Thus, erosion causes significant loss of humus and nutrients and decreases the fertility of soil. Now, next is what are the causes of soil erosion? We shall now discuss the causes of soil erosion. There are several causes of soil erosion. These include natural causes and anthropogenic causes, which are the human generated causes. Firstly, let us know about the natural causes of soil erosion. Erosion of soil takes place due to the effect of natural agents like wind and water. High velocity winds over lands which have no vegetation carry away the loose topsoil. Similarly, in areas with no or very little vegetation, the pouring raindrops carry away the soil. Second is the anthropogenic causes of soil erosion. Besides the natural agents, there are some human activities which cause soil erosion. First would be deforestation. If the forests are cut down for timber or for farming purposes, then the soil is no longer protected from the effect of falling rains. Consequently, the topsoil is washed away into the rivers and oceans. Second is the poor farming methods. Improper tillage and failure to replace humans after successive crops and burning the stubble of weeds reduce the water holding capacity of the soil. So, the soil becomes dry and can be blown away as dust. Now, the third factor is overgrazing. Overgrazing by flocks of cattle, buffaloes, goats and sheep leave very little plant cover on the soil. Their hooves make the soil dry and soil can be blown away easily. We know that soil loses its fertility due to erosion. So, we need to conserve the soil. Soil conservation means checking soil erosion and improving soil fertility by adopting various methods. Let us now know some of these methods. The first method would be by maintenance of soil fertility. The fertility can be maintained by adding manure and fertilizers regularly as well as by rotation of crop. The second method would be by having a control on grazing. Grazing should be allowed only on the areas meant for it and not on agricultural land. The third way would be by reforestation, that is, planting of trees and vegetation reduces soil erosion by both water as well as wind. The fourth practice can be that of terracing, in which dividing a slope into several flat fields to control the rapid run of water. This is practiced mostly in hilly areas. The fifth practice can be that of contour ploughing, that is, ploughing at right angles to the slope allows the furrows to trap water and check soil erosion by rainwater. Let us now discuss another most important natural resource, water. We know it very well that water is essential for survival of all living organisms. It is the most important component of all life forms and necessary for sustaining life. It regulates climate, generates electricity and is also useful in agriculture and industries. About 97% of the water on earth is saline in nature, which is found in seas and oceans. The remaining 3% is freshwater and most of which is stored in ice caps and glaciers, and just about 0.36% is distributed in lakes, rivers, ponds, etc. Seawater supports marine life and contributes to the production of fish and seafoods and several other commercial products such as iodine, agar, coral, pearls, etc. Freshwater is needed by humans for their personal use such as drinking, cleaning, sewage disposal, etc. It is also used by other animals in agriculture and for industrial purposes. Freshwater is a renewable resource as it is continuously being produced through hydrological cycle, that is, evaporation, condensation and precipitation. Now, how is degradation of water happening? Degradation of water is the decrease in quality and quantity of water on the earth's surface. With increase in population and industrial growth, water is being degraded day by day. The main reasons for the degradation of water are: firstly, To meet the need of increasing population, surface water, that is water from ponds, lakes, rivers, etc., and groundwater are overdrawn. Second, sewage, that is wastewater from domestic and municipal use, makes fresh water unfit for use by human beings and animals. Thirdly, wastewater from all industries flows down the surface water bodies and groundwater bodies and they get polluted. Fourth, agricultural waste containing manures, fertilizers and pesticides enter the water bodies and degrade the quality of water. Fifth, the continuous decrease of groundwater level along coastal regions often causes movements of saline water into freshwater wells, thus spoiling their water quality. Conservation and management of water are essential for the survival of mankind, plants and animals. This can be achieved by adopting the following methods. The first method would be by growing vegetation in the catchment areas, which will hold water in the soil and allow it to percolate into deeper layers and contribute to the formation of groundwater. Second is by the construction of dams and reservoirs to regulate the supply of water to the fields as well as to enable generating hydroelectricity. Third is sewage, which should be treated and only the clear water should be released into the rivers. Fourth, the industrial waste, that is the effluents, should be treated to prevent chemical and thermal pollution of fresh water. The judicious use of water in our day-to-day life should be avoided. And sixth, rainwater harvesting should be done by storing rainwater and recharging groundwater. When we observe our surroundings, we find different types of plants ranging from small green grasses to large trees and a large variety of animals, from tiny insects to human beings and many other big animals. Besides these, there are microorganisms in the soil, air and water that we cannot see through our naked eyes. These varieties of plants, animals and microbes together form the biological diversity or biodiversity of our surroundings. So, biodiversity can be defined as the flora and fauna, that is variety of all plants, animals and microbes of a region. Next, coming to the importance of biodiversity. Biodiversity is essential for maintenance of ecosystem. It maintains gaseous composition of atmosphere, controls climate, helps in natural pest control and pollination of plants by insects and birds, soil formation and conservation, water purification and conservation, and also geochemical cycles, etc. Some of the uses of biodiversity are given below. First would be food. All kinds of food is derived from plants and animals. Next is drugs and medicines. Around 25% of drugs are obtained from plants. Example, quinines used for the treatment of malaria is obtained from Cinchona officinalis, and all the antibiotics are derived from microbes. Next is the cultural and aesthetic value. We enjoy watching butterflies, animals, birds and flowers. So, ecotourism is a source of income as well. Next is the religious values. Plants like tulsi, peepal, banyan and animals like cows, ox, elephants are worshipped. It is essential for the maintenance of an ecosystem. It is required for disposal and pollination in plants formation and also conservation of soil and purification and conservation of water. Now, next moving on to the threat to biodiversity. Though biodiversity is so important for our survival, we are destroying it knowingly or unknowingly, and it is under threat due to the following reasons. Firstly, destruction of habitat by cutting down trees, filling up the wetland, ploughing of grassland or burning a forest. Population explosion has increased the demand for food and shelter. It has led to culture of single crop that will result in disappearance of some other crops. Industrialization and urbanization has changed and destroyed the natural habitat of plants and animals. Pollution of soil, air and water changes the habitat quality and may reduce or eliminate sensitive species. Mining activities add to the pollution of air and water and threaten the survival of the animals in the nearby areas. Construction of dams, roads and railways destroys huge patches of forest, grassland, etc. and thus disturb the biodiversity. Indiscriminate killing of animals for different purposes have resulted in their reduction. Introduction of exotic or foreign species in an area threaten the survival of existing natural biodiversity. Example, water hyacinth clogs rivers and lakes and threatens the life of many aquatic species in our country. Now, as we have an idea for the importance of biodiversity for our survival and how it is destroyed, let us now know how to protect the biodiversity. There are two basic strategies for conservation of biodiversity. First is in-situ conservation and second is ex-situ conservation. Firstly, let us understand about in-situ or on-site conservation, which includes the protection of plants and animals within their natural habitats or in protected areas. Protected areas are those areas of land or sea dedicated to the production and maintenance of biodiversity. For example, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, etc. The second strategy is that of ex-situ or off-site conservation, which is the conservation of plants and animals outside their natural habitats. These include botanical gardens, zoo, gene banks, DNA banks, seed banks, pollen banks, seedling and tissue culture, etc. Wildlife needs to be conserved for maintaining ecological balance for supporting life, preserving different kinds of species, that is biodiversity, preserving economically important plants and animals, and also for conserving the endangered species. Now, let us take a look into the methods of conservation of wildlife. After knowing the need for conservation of wildlife, let us discuss and understand how to conserve it. We can protect it by adopting various means like establishing biosphere reserves, national parks and sanctuaries, afforestation, which is tree planting program, special schemes for preservation of threatened species, improvement of natural habitats of wildlife, educating people about the need and methods of conservation of wildlife, formulation of acts and regulations to prevent poaching, that is killing of animals for sports and money. Wildlife Week is being observed in India in the month of July every year since 1955. It aims at creating awareness among people about the importance of wildlife and to highlight the conservational and management needs